I believe that you need a lot of silence and a lot of solitude. You need so much time to reflect. You need to go really into your grief if you're going to move through it and if you're going to move forward. And that's the most courageous and vulnerable thing because it hurts so much. So having these house sits allowed me that time, thinking, walking, journaling, reading, more walking, just that kind of thing. Every now and again, I would go and visit a friend or family. I didn't really want to be around people. And when I was, I remember thinking, oh, this is so loud. People talking. Because I just had my own company the whole time. So that experience was incredibly necessary to the whole process during that trip.
Sometimes a story comes along that cracks you open in like the best ways possible. Well, my conversation with Becky Livingston is one of those moments. Becky is an author, a traveler, and a mother who turned an unimaginable loss into a journey of healing and rediscovery. After losing her 23-year-old daughter, she set out on a 26-month pilgrimage around the world, carrying her daughter's ashes to 9 countries and finding pieces of herself in the process. In our conversation, Becky talks about what it means to really live after loss, the quiet moments of courage, the power of slowing down, and how travel became her therapy. This journey helped her realize that healing isn't about moving on, it's about carrying love forward. This episode is about freedom, purpose, and saying yes to the life that's still waiting for you. So please enjoy my conversation with Becky Livingston. You're listening to Midlife Strategies for Badass Women, the no BS podcast for women over 40 who are sick of playing by someone else's rules. I'm your host, Sue Willoughby, badass midlife strategist, truth teller, and professional fire starter for midlife reinvention. Around here, we don't do fluff. We do real talk, bold strategies, and badass breakthroughs. Because midlife isn't a crisis, it's your damn power move. If you're all in, unapologetic, and ready to reinvent, let's get started. Welcome to another exciting episode of Midlife Strategies for Badass Women. And today, we're going to go on a little adventure. Actually, it's probably going to be a big adventure because my guest today, Becky Livingston, is an adventurer. She has been all over the world and she now coaches women on travel. So I'm very excited to talk to Becky today. Becky, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Sue. I'm looking forward to this. This is great.
So you have done a lot of things. You've written a book. You wrote a book in 2018, I believe. And the book was the outcome of losing your daughter, your 23-year-old daughter. And I'd love to start there and tell me a little bit about, what made you decide to write a book? I know that it was part of your travel adventure. So give me a little background on the book and how it all came to be.
Sure. Okay. It's funny. I mean, it was published in 2018, but it was started in 2014. It takes a long time to write a memoir. Rachel had a dying wish to keep traveling the world. She had been an avid traveler when she was alive. She'd gone off to New Zealand and Australia as soon as she got the all clear from her doctors after her course of radiation. And she'd been to Mexico with friends and Costa Rica. She went to Europe on her own when she was 20. And I'd taken her and my other daughter to Australia on a teaching exchange when Rachel was about 12. So it was in her blood, a lot like it was for me. And so this was something she wanted to do, to keep traveling. So obviously, she's not there, but we've got her ashes. And about a year after she died, I'd gone back to work as a teacher, and things were getting worse and worse. And I thought, something's got to give. And so I quit my teaching job. I was 53 at the time. I put my stuff in storage, packed a suitcase with some of her ashes in a Ziploc bag, and I set off. And I was gone for 26 months. And I mean, I didn't know I was going to be gone that long. I had no agenda at all other than a 2-month stay in this tiny little village in Mallorca, Spain. And
Mm.
I house sat and did things all over the world, friends, family, and so on. And at one point, I thought, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to call it Joyful Mourning. It was going to be about how people deal with the loss of somebody they love. And I did a lot of work on it. And when I returned to Vancouver, I didn't go back. You never go back. When I returned to Vancouver, a friend of mine, a writing friend of mine, said, "You've got to write a book about leaving Rachel's ashes around the world, because only you know where you left her, and only you know why you left her where you left her." And that's an interesting story, because the other book I could have written just sitting on my sofa. And, when she said that, my heart, I just thought, oh my gosh, she's absolutely right. And it was a very scary realization, but I thought, okay, I am going to do this. So for the next few years, I read copious amounts of memoir. I did writing courses. I had a wonderful mentor through Vancouver Manuscript Intensive, and the book grew, and it was an incredible experience writing the book, because in a way it continued the journey I had. It was no longer a literal journey, but now it became an interior journey and a writing journey, and it kept my daughter close, and it kept me very vibrant and alive, because it was quite the challenge.
Yes. Yeah, I can imagine it was quite the challenge. I love that. First of all, I love your journey with your daughter, with her ashes, to honor her wish to continue to travel, which she did. And you, over the course of 26 months, left her in various places. Now, when you were writing the book and reliving your journey, had you were you journaling, on your travels? Were you making notes, not necessarily with the intention of writing a book, but were you keeping a journal of your adventures at the time?
Yes, I was keeping a journal, and I did start a blog. I'd actually
Okay,
done a travel writing course just before I left on my journey. And
nice.
so and blogging was relatively new. Well, it
Mhm.
was for me. And so I did a blog, and it wasn't really anything to do with ashes. I wasn't telling anybody what I was doing. Um, I I posted maybe every 3 weeks when something really came to me, and I thought, "Yeah, this is rich. I want to post something." Um, and I used a little bit of the stuff from those blogs in my book, but not much.
So you were just basically going on your memories of your adventures,
Mhm,
and you knew
mhm.
when and where, you left, parts of your daughter behind. And how many different countries did you travel to? I know you were
Gosh,
a lot of
I
different
don't
ones.
know. But, Sue, I just want to go back and say, whenever I left her ashes, and you can imagine how traumatic that was at the beginning, the first
Yeah.
time, heart stopping, stomach in my throat. Second time, third time, there's certain criteria you have to be on your own. It has to be quiet. It can't be too windy. There's just so many parameters that have to go into effect with that. I always took a photograph. So it was the photographs that helped hugely with me coming together. What I ended up doing was I had an index card, loads of them, and I would write down where I was every place, and then I would do a who, what, when, where, how, and then that really and then it was growing each of those places, which then became the story of the book. How many countries? Gosh, I don't know.
I was just curious if you,
Maybe about 9, 10, something like that. I don't know. I never counted.
I'd love to know more about how your journey unfolded. You said you started out doing you didn't know that you were going to be gone for 26 months. And it's interesting because I interviewed a gentleman back, he was one of my first few interviews when I started my podcast. And very similar to you, he packed up all his belongings. He had gotten a divorce and went on walkabout for 4 years. And
Oh.
so, like he said, he didn't intend for it to be, but it was like one thing led to the next. So I'd love to know a little bit about how your journey unfolded.
Well, I started, like I say, I bought this plane ticket to Europe, and I had this a friend who I'd met at a Zumba class who had this place in this tiny village in Mallorca, and I knew there was going to be no washer, dryer, it was going to be cold water. I'd have to heat the water to get hot water. The bathroom was outside. I wanted something very elemental. I wanted
Mm,
I wanted there to be hardship. I didn't want it to be in any way luxurious. That would have felt completely wrong because of my intention as to why I was there. What I did before I left Vancouver was I signed up to be a house sitter. And I would get these email alerts every day, because you can put all these parameters where you go and so on.
mhm,
And I ended up getting really close to the end of my time in New York. I thought, okay, I'm restless. I want to move on. I didn't know where. I got this
mhm.
email saying there was this house sit in Bunbury in Western Australia. I applied for it and I got it. And I had a friend in Perth. I picked up the phone to her. I said, Jackie, I've just got this house sit. Can I? Yeah, come on. She said, come stay with me. Because the timing rarely works exactly. You need a few days here and a few days there. So
Right.
that was the start. And then it just sort of snowballed from there. And then I was here and then I was there. I did go to India for 3
Mm.
weeks. Again, not to house sit. I
I was
did.
just gonna ask you, was that a
Yep.
house sitting gig?
No, I wanted to go to India. Well, this is interesting. One of the places, I don't know how much time we've got.
Oh, go
I,
for it. Yeah,
I
you're
brought
good.
Rachel this book for
Mhm.
Christmas about, I don't know, 3 years before she died. It's called Unforgettable Places to See Before You Die.
Mm.
And she had gone through the book and she'd drawn a star on each of the places she'd been. And then she'd flip through it and one day I'm going to go there and one day I'm going to. And the Taj Mahal was one of the places she wanted to go to. So I wanted to go to India to take some of her ashes to the Taj Mahal. And that's a whole nother story. But I succeeded. It was very, very, very touch and go. But I
Mm.
managed to do that. So India, because of the Taj Mahal and also because I wanted to see hardship
Mhm.
and poverty and chaos really up close, because that's exactly the kind of thing I needed as part of this whole journey to sort of be more undone than everything and than anything else.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you why you needed to feel that and needed to experience those types of things. I'm curious.
Well, it's interesting, Sue. It's a great question, and it's interesting talking to you about this because I Rachel had gone. She died. She'd had to give up everything.
Mhm.
After that, it was very easy for me to try to come as close to emulating that as possible. It's
Hmm.
why I only ever travel with carry-on suitcase. It's why I live a very minimalist lifestyle. It's I wanted to be as close to her as possible, and I needed to be as raw and vulnerable and simple and minimalist as I possibly could be, to be as close to her as I wanted to be. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Yeah. Yes, it does. And when you were in these situations where you like you said, you didn't want any luxury travel or anything else, and you did I can imagine that you did feel vulnerable, especially in places like India, where you did get that full experience of chaos and all of that poverty I have not been, but I have friends that have been and have seen the different the very impoverished areas and the very wealthy areas, and there's a lot of not much in between. It's one or the other, it seems like, and I'm assuming that for the most part, you were traveling as a single woman, correct?
Yes. Yeah, the whole time.
Yes. Yeah, the whole time. So, that's gonna lead us into the next conversation, but I love that were telling me that that's why you wanted to feel those things and to have those kinds of experiences. In doing that, how did that help you process your grief?
Well, I think the the being alone was huge
Mm,
because when you're trying to navigate a journey through grief, the loss of my daughter, I I believe that you need a lot of silence and a lot of solitude. You need so much time to reflect. You need to go really into your grief if you're going to move through it and if you're going to move forward. And that's the most courageous and vulnerable thing because it hurts so much. So having these house sits allowed me that time thinking, walking, um, journaling, reading, more walking, just that kind of thing. Every now and again, I would go and visit a friend or family. I didn't really want to be around people. And when I was, I
mhm.
remember thinking, oh, this is so loud. People talking. Because I
Yeah.
just had my own company the whole time.
Mhm.
Um, so that experience was incredibly necessary to the whole process during that trip.
That's amazing, and I think, just listening to you and feeling that it's difficult for people, and not necessarily especially women, but just in general, we are inundated by so many inputs these days. We've got phones and this and that, and something's always beeping at us or doing something else. It's really difficult to be quiet, I think. I feel a lot of times that and I think that when we are quiet to that extent, things get really loud inside, and then you do have to deal with them, like you said, that the quieter and it's hard to get quiet these days. It's hard to separate yourself from all the everything that's going on. And like you said, even in India where there's a lot of the energy level and the chaos and there's so many people, the population, it's so dense. It must have been difficult there, especially to find that quiet center.
Mm.
Um, and then how did you find it in India? How did you find the quiet in
Well, I
India?
mean,
I'm
I
curious.
didn't. I didn't. It was
Yeah.
impossible. But I was ready at this point. I was about, I can't remember, 7 months into my trip, and I wanted to just have that experience, and obviously I wanted to go to the Taj Mahal, but I wanted to have that experience too, and it was utterly exhausting. So after my 3 weeks in India, I had this amazing house sit in Tasmania. So I went back to
Mm.
Melbourne and then to Tasmania, and I had this home, picture this, home on a hill, river rock, chimney, beautiful wood wall, sort of, like a kilometer away from the nearest home. Everybody had acreage, spectacular view, 2 walls of floor to ceiling windows,
Oh my
and an
god.
epic view. that place, that's where I felt joy for the first time in I don't know how long. I actually didn't know if I would ever feel that again. So you can
Wow.
imagine what that felt like. But having I had the experience of all this craziness of India and then coming to this place, all I was doing was looking after a cat. You pretty much always look after an animal when you house it. Um,
I love that, I love that, and I have looked into that. I've actually seen places because I'm an equestrian, and I'm like, "I'd love to just go,
okay.
farm sit or, yeah, be with the animals because it's hard to find people to take care of, especially large animals.
Yes.
So anyway, go ahead,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, no, 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 no. So that place was remarkable. But again, when I arrived there, it was just complete exhaustion, just letting that whole experience of India
Mm.
just wash over me and wash through me. Oof. That took a long time. That was a 9-week house sit, which I loved because it was long,
Ooh,
but also
nice.
because it was
Yeah.
fabulous. And I had chickens and this cat and a vegetable garden, and they let me use their car because it was very remote. Um, it was the
Nice.
perfect place to go after India to just sort of restore myself. Um, so that's the thing where, that, I'm a big believer in slow, gentle travel, and that's a classic reason for that, right? Because when, rushing and noise and it's just so bad for our nervous system, and
Mhm.
lingering is so restorative. And I think especially when somebody's going through a difficult time, a transition, a loss, an empty nest, loss of a career or something, I think that slowness is imperative for for changes, deep changes, long-lasting changes to settle in. I think we need a lot of time, a lot more time than we realize. And of course, most people don't want to give that a lot of time, right? They come on, let's just go. What's the quick fix, right? Well, there is no quick fix, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, because we're so into that instant gratification,
totally.
right?
Yeah.
We want this to happen now and we just go from one thing to the next and, there is no such thing as multitasking, I hate to burst everyone's bubble, but we're not designed to do that. And
Right.
it it upsets your nervous system. And like you said, we do need to, and I know sometimes even just taking a hot bath to the point where the bath is so hot that I just feel like I need to get out now, but I don't, I just have to stay
Right.
in there, let everything settle out and settle down, and then I just wanna go lay in bed and cool off, let my skin just kinda come back to room temperature. But I'm I am not one of those travel people where, everything has to be agenda, and now we're eating dinner, and then we're gonna do this, and then between the hours of 2 and 3, we're gonna no. No, N to the O is not happening.
Right.
Uh, so, yeah, I'm definitely not one of those types of travel people, but, um, what that sounds like an amazing the house in Tasmania. In your 26 months, if you have, what was your favorite stay or place or part of your journey? And there may have been more than one, but does one stick out or do 2 that one sounds like it was an amazing one, but what was your favorite? If you have
Definitely.
one.
Definitely that one, Tasmania.
Mm,
Definitely,
yeah.
because it was just the timing, it was all that light, and it was like a mirror to the grief inside me, and it finally felt light and open, and like I say, it's where I first felt joy. And so you can imagine just I was almost giddy. I was almost like giggling. I could hardly believe I'd landed this house sit in such an
Right?
incredible home. And I wasn't their first choice. I was their backup. And I kind of
Yeah,
knew something was going to happen. And it fell through. And they said, "Can you come?" And yet there was that weird feeling also. I thought, I knew this was going to happen.
I love
Strange.
that.
Strange. I
Isn't
know.
that great? That's
I,
so
when
amazing.
things like that happen. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, everything happens as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
You needed that intense visit to India to then come to Tasmania and just, like you said, let everything fall away and start to feel positive and the joy and, have your heart open back up again, it sounds like. And
I
what
just want to add one more thing. So this is
yes.
just because we're on this. In
Yeah.
Tasmania, the license plate on cars is explore the possibilities.
No,
Isn't that?
I love that.
I know.
That is incredible. I have not been to Tasmania, that's definitely a place that I was in Australia for the millennium, which was
Right.
incredible. We were in Adelaide for Christmas and then Sydney for the New Year's
Nice.
2000, and it
Yep.
was speaking of chaos, and it was insane,
Yeah.
absolutely insane, but wow, what an incredible adventure that was too. Because
Yeah.
Adelaide was the opposite, was just super
Right.
chill and
Yes. Okay.
beaches and everything, and I love Australia, I'd love to go back.
Yeah.
Um, and Tasmania is definitely on my list.
No, it's beautiful.
Hey, badass listener, have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Yeah, it's not that difficult. Seriously, I've created a limited series mini podcast, which is only 21 episodes. It's entitled Podcasting for Real Estate Pros. Now, if you're not a real estate pro, that's okay. You can still listen because it goes through all of the steps from creating a concept to building content pillars to recording to actually launching your own real podcast. Now, this can be a marketing tool if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a real estate professional, whether you're an agent, whether you're a inspector, whatever industry you're in, this can be useful. It also has a free downloadable workbook. So wherever you listen to your podcasts, like Midlife Strategies for Badass Women, whether on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are, check it out. It's called Podcasting for Real Estate Pros. Listen to a few episodes. They're super short. They're like anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long. Tons of information, actionable steps. Hey, you never know. You could be the next Josephine Rogan. All right, get out there, listen to that podcast, get your workbook, and I'll see you behind the mic. So I want to kind of shift gears a little bit, unless there's some other pieces of your journey that you'd like to share, and you can bring them in as we're talking about stuff. But you returned to Vancouver. You're working on your book. When did you sort of get the idea or the feeling that you wanted to turn your experience, your travel experience, into coaching other women as a travel coach? And I say it in air quotes, travel coach, because it sounds like, from what I've read, that it's really life coaching around travel. Am I
Exactly.
close?
Yep. That's it. Yep. It is. What actually happened after the book came out, not after it came out, after I couldn't really do anything more, it was in the hands of my agent. I went to live with my mum in England for a while because her partner had died and we had to do a bunch of stuff. And then I
Oh,
moved to another part of BC, which is about 8 hours from here, which you may know, Nelson in the West Kootenays. It's about 3
hmm,
hours north of Spokane. So you'll make,
okay.
because that's where my daughter lives, and then granddaughter and grandson. So I lived there for 5.5 years and I
Wow.
loved it, but it wasn't my place. Its
Mm,
remoteness wasn't a right fit for me. And so, what I ended up doing was I did a repeat of what I'd done years before, but completely different reason. I left. I gave up my apartment. I thought, okay, I was languishing. I thought, what am I doing with my one wild and precious life? Not enough. And I know that travel revitalizes me like nothing else, right? And I just
yeah.
love the idea of traveling and all the people I'm going to meet and all the stories I'm going to hear. So that's what I did. And this time, what sparked that trip, and I'm going to get to my travel coaching thing in a minute, was I
You're fine.
saw this women's only adventure tour in northern Thailand, and it was jungle trekking and river rafting. And I thought, ooh, I think maybe I've got to do that. I thought adventure, that's what I want, adventure.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And and then I was gone for 14 months there, right?
In Thailand or just moving
No,
around,
just
going
gone.
different
I was
places?
gone. I
Okay.
went to visit my friend in Perth. I did a house sit in Sydney, in North Sydney.
Nice.
And then my mum died. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So then I just did a whole bunch more house sitting again for 14 months. But it did what I
Nice.
wanted it to do, which was it it replenished me, it renewed me, it revitalized me. That's really the journey that made me go, I want to work as a travel coach and help women who are languishing, feel like they're kind of stuck and there's no
Mhm.
movement. Inertia's a terrible thing, right? There's no flow of energy. And I thought that's who I want to help. So that's who I help women 55 plus who are also feeling like there must be more, and there
Mhm.
is. And it is like life coaching, as I trained as a life coach. But I use the tool of travel, long, slow travel, to help women um, come to this understanding, for lack of a
Yeah. I
better.
love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
And I do something similar, except I work with horses
Right,
to help people get back in their bodies
right.
and realize that they, don't have to be where they are, and they can find a new identity if that's what they wanna do, or just
Mm,
explore and a lot of different things. So, different exploration, and then, travel if they want, or do whatever. So
right, right. When you
so I love that you do that, because I do think that, um, travel is one thing that is very intimidating for
mhm,
women, especially women of a certain age,
mhm,
and especially if they are feeling stuck. I mean, just sometimes it's hard for people to just do something small, make some tiny little change, or
mhm,
take a step in a different direction, not even to think about taking on a trip, a solo trip, or something. So, how tell me a little bit about how you work with that. I'm curious. So, I love this.
well, you're right. I mean, I think I get some women who are like, right, I'm about to do this, or I want to do this mega trip, but I'm not sure I
Mhm,
feel confident enough to do it on my own. So we can work on that part of things.
mhm,
Um, you know, uh, Shifting mindset. Well, you know this now through your work with horses, right?
mhm,
Women find it difficult to give themselves permission to put themselves
mhm.
first. And especially women who are a
Yes.
little bit older and all, they've really done so much child caring and husband or partner caring and, looking after colleagues at work or maybe aging parents. It's always been give, give,
Yeah,
give. And it's really
yeah,
hard for women to go, really? I can do that for me? And yeah, yeah, it's just so empowering. And actually, it's incredible how many solo women travelers there are now in this older age bracket. It's incredible. But to your point about starting small, I mean, that's it. It's like anything, just probably like you
mhm,
do with the horses. How you start with somebody. What do they do? Just stand near a horse or stroke the horse or smell the horse or,
mhm.
something might not do anything else, right? So
Right?
it can seem overwhelming. Somebody looks at me and go, wow, you just did here and here and here, and that's too much. And I totally get that. But, even just to think about our city, Seattle, Vancouver, we've got so many
Yeah,
neighborhoods in our city that we maybe don't really know very well.
yeah,
So just even taking a day trip to another neighborhood and poking around shops or sitting in a cafe with a journal and just people watching, anything that takes you out of your normal routine that might make you and
mhm,
very likely will make you a little bit uncomfortable. because that's the key. You've got to get a bit uncomfortable. You can't have both. But of course, the older we get, the more we like that comfort zone and the harder it
Sure.
becomes to step out of it. So I think, going with just like a day trip and then maybe a weekend, going to visit a friend not far away, but just
Mhm.
again, getting out of your normal routine, of your normal home, and just living with somebody else for a couple of nights. And then on and on from there. It really depends on the woman. Some women are like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, I'm good. I just need somebody to sort of hold my hand through X, Y, Z." And others are like, don't know." Yeah.
So, I mean, do you encourage people to travel completely solo, like you did, or maybe with a friend or with a group of women if that makes them feel more
Mm.
comfortable? What what types of things do you recommend, or
Well,
does
I
it
think you
depend?
said it. I mean, what's comfortable? I think when we feel
Mm,
safe, when we feel comfortable,
mhm,
we're much more likely to do something. So again, to this point of how many older women are traveling solo now, there are companies that are now offering group tours for solo women. I think it's a fabulous
mm,
idea. So yes, you get onto
absolutely.
a plane on your own. Yes, you arrive in a city on your own. All of the people are solo, but then they go as a group. Nobody knows each other, but you have the comfort then of being somewhere with somebody who's going to guide you around. It's still a tour, but you
Mhm,
don't have to worry about, "Oh, I've got nobody to go with me," and, "Oh, am I gonna look like a loser if I'm there on my own?" and all this kind of stuff. So I would totally recommend it. And, traveling with a friend is always really good. I love traveling with, some of my girlfriends. It's a very different experience. The thing
mhm.
that's beautiful about solo travel is you undoubtedly meet more people. Because when you're
Yes.
alone, everybody resonates with alone. You see somebody who's alone looking at a map, you're likely to say, "Oh, can I help you? You're looking for directions." But if you saw two people looking at a map together, you'd probably walk past and maybe go, "Yeah, they'll figure it out." So
Yeah,
I
exactly. Yeah.
really believe that when you're on your own, you're more likely to help other people. Other people are more likely to help you. You have more conversations with different people. That's been my experience, like, th through the roof. In fact, just in September, I was in Europe, and I
Mhm,
stayed at an Airbnb. I try and stay if a woman has a spare room in a house, I'll do that. And I was at the bus stop, and I was looking for some shops, and I said to this girl who was sitting at the bus stop with her phone, I said, "Are there really more shops down there?" And she said, "Oh, no, 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 you need to go this way. Go right into Cambridge." I'm going. Let's get the bus. Come on." We were at the bus stop. We go up to the top of the bus, and she basically spends the next half hour giving me a tour. This is that. This is this. We get off the bus. This is the great place to get a Scotch egg. This is a great place to get the best gelato. That's the best view there. That's the tree where Newton discovered the law of gravity. And I was like, "Oh, what can I can't believe." I said, "Do you do this for a job?" She said, "No, no." But her husband's
yeah.
studying PhD at Cambridge, and I think he takes history students or something around. So, I mean, that would
Yeah.
not have happened if I had been with somebody else. And so I love those
Right.
experiences, and I want them for other people, but I totally understand that that's something that may happen further down the road. But I
Yeah.
hope it happens.
I have a friend that right, right, and you're absolutely right. I have a friend that does a fair bit of travel, by herself, and she will actually hire a local guide.
Yes.
to just like this woman did for you, but she'll and they spend the day together, they will have lunch or they'll do whatever, but you get a really different, perspective. You get an insider's view, and it's like having a local friend that you meet up with, and she's had amazing experiences
Yes.
by doing that, and she feels safe. She usually has a female guide, that's
I
who she'll select, and so, she doesn't feel uncomfortable or weird about stuff. But she's had amazing experiences with these people. I think, you know, she's been all over the place. So, yeah, I think that is a great thing, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I even tell people when they're trying like, "Well, how can I get out of my comfort zone and everything?" I said, "Go to a restaurant that you've never been to and have a meal by yourself."
Right.
"Well, I can't do that." Right? Why can't you do that? Because people will think I'm what? You're what? Eating alone? Well, yeah, like, and what's wrong with that? Well, and then all of the stories come out
Yeah.
about, well, they'll think, I don't have anybody to eat with and stuff. I'm like, so what? I think that's one of the hardest thing is even to, like you said, go into a coffee shop, have a cup of coffee, journal or something. You see people in a coffee shop alone and they're like on their phone like this, like, oh my God,
Right.
I can't
That's
possibly
right.
make eye contact with anyone.
That's right. Yeah, which speaks to a
Why do you
classic
think it's
fear that people
yeah.
just don't want to look like they're alone. I mean, occasionally you
Yeah.
see people looking around, and I always think, "Oh, good, somebody's looking around." But you've touched on something. This is very interesting. I just wrote a blog post about this, about how not to feel lonely, how when you're
Mm,
traveling. Of the three main fears that women have about solo travel, one of them is eating alone. Safety isn't
mhm.
one of them, not anymore, but eating
Isn't that
alone.
crazy?
I know. Isn't that crazy? That's how much people dread it, right? I think
Why?
no, it
Why
will
do you
admit
think?
well, I think we are still, unfortunately, very conditioned to concern ourselves with what other people think of us.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
somebody's gonna sit there and on her own, and maybe somebody's gonna go, "Oh, poor love. She hasn't got anybody to go out for dinner with. Oh,
Right.
she's maybe got no friends," or I don't know. I
No
mean, somebody's
partner
like,
or
"Okay." Yeah.
whatever.
But you know what? I have to say, more and more, because I know how many women are traveling solo, I see them now. You know, when you see a car that you think you're going to buy, and then all of a sudden you see it everywhere. I notice solo women all the time now, and they're just doing their thing, and I absolutely love it. I don't know who they are, but I'm seeing a lot more women who are really stepping up and saying, "Hey, it's my time." It is. It's my time now, right? And I just think all power to them. I know there's people that write about, oh, they give you not good tables in restaurants if you're on your own. They'll put you with the family, with the kids, or they'll put you by the washroom. But then there's badass women who say, no, that doesn't work for me. I'd like that
Yeah.
table over there by the window and the view. And there's
Right,
different countries, I
exactly, don't
think, that have different approaches to that. Um,
yeah, yeah, I was wondering about that too, like, traveling as a single woman, are there places that you recommend that are not exactly the best places for single women to go? Or are there certain places you would steer people away from, I guess, is the first question.
well, I think it's always come down to common sense. I mean, you don't
Mhm,
arrive in a city in the dark. You do whatever you
mm,
can to make sure you arrive in a daytime. You research, you've got to research, okay, how do you get from an airport to the hotel? But, should you take a taxi, or is it sort of a racket that's going on where people try and charge you more than usual? So, and there's Facebook groups and things like that. It's amazing how
mhm.
many groups there are on particular things like this. Well, you do have to do your research in that regard, right? I mean, obviously, you want to be dressing like very, not minimally, sorry, definitely not minimally.
Scantily clad.
No, you want to just go under the radar. You don't want to
Right,
look like, you've got makeup on and jewelry on and all those kinds of things, right? And,
right.
again, you do your homework on good neighborhoods and not good neighborhoods. I mean,
Mhm.
like I say, when I travel on my own, I look for Airbnbs where the woman has got a spare room in her house and I'll stay in her spare room. I
Mm,
like that. I'm in a neighborhood. I've got somebody who I can connect with. Somebody I can talk with when I'm there. It feels safe to me that I've
mhm,
got that. I like that. It's also company. I don't stay in hotels. I don't really want to be in a hotel room and it's kind of cold and a million people have stayed there before and I don't really know what's going on. I like to be in somebody's neighborhood and feel like I just live there. So it's more sort of logical stuff. I don't think it's any different than what you would do if you were in your own hometown. I mean, there's certain neighborhoods probably you would never go to. You just need to do your research and um, and just make wise choices around being safe. Because again, when you're safe, you're comfortable.
mhm.
And when you're comfortable, you'll enjoy whatever traveling you do much more than, if you're worried. I mean, you don't drink, you don't go out at night, like eat lunch, have your big meal at lunchtime. And then, but don't, maybe at nighttime you don't want to go out. You maybe want to get something and bring it in, or you just want to go out and grab something and bring it back. Whatever's comfortable for you, right?
Mhm. Yeah. And I love your advice about, staying in a home with somebody, an Airbnb or bed and breakfast type of a place
Right.
where you're going to connect with a local person and be
Right.
in their home and get more of the culture. Because like you said, you shut yourself in a hotel room. It's like going to France and eating at McDonald's,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, that may feel comfortable to you because that's what you do, but you're not experiencing Paris. You're you're experiencing McDonald's, right?
Right.
Same thing. You go
Right.
to a hotel, you're experiencing the hotel, which is probably gonna be very probably Americanized, because if you
Right.
choose a specific type of a hotel, unless it's a little boutique-y hotel, but I love that, and then you can have those conversations with your host and get to know them, and, I did a, 15-day, cycling trip in Vietnam,
But yeah.
from yeah, and we went from Hanoi down to Ho Chi Minh,
Mhm.
in the course of 15 days, and there was a group of us that knew each other, but there are also other people on the trip that didn't. But it was such an amazing way to see the country because
Mhm.
you're literally on a bicycle and, one minute you might be riding in a herd of water buffalo, and the next minute you're riding through the streets and the markets and all of that all of that, and so much life
Right.
happens on the streets
Well,
and in the markets and all of that. So you get to experience that rather than zoom riding by in a tour bus. You just don't
right.
get to the feel for the place.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful, beautiful trip. So that's another way to travel with a group,
Mhm, mhm. Yes, I've
independently or
heard
with a
that. I
group.
have a couple of friends who ride motorbikes, and they see a similar
Mm,
thing because you're actually traveling through the air of a place, so you get the sights and the
uh-huh.
sounds, and you're alert to all of it in a way that when you're on a bus, I mean, you could look out the window, but you could also look down at your phone, right?
Yeah.
And there's so
Right.
much that's missed.
Yeah. Yes, it was very fun. It was really cute. Like, we would be driving past a school, and the little kids would just pour out of the school and stand along the side of the road with their hands
Nice.
out so that you could, like, slap their hands as they went by, and they're
Right.
like, "Hi, hi, 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 hi." It was so cute. It was really cute. And,
Nice.
people wanna talk to you sometimes and practice their English.
Yes.
Uh, and it was very cute because sometimes it was like, "Hi, hi, how are you?" It'd get like three words in, and then it'd start over again. But
Right,
but it
right.
was so fun. It was really a beautiful way to see the country,
And
literally.
you touched on something, which is, and coming back to the solo thing, when we focus so much on ourselves, we become self-conscious. But, nobody's
Mhm.
really thinking about us. Only we're thinking about us.
Oh,
Everybody's doing their own thing. Like you say, and these kids are
yes.
just wanting to practice their English, and I think that that's a very powerful frame of mind to remember that it's not about us. When we travel, it's about them. We're just a visitor landing in their part of the world. And
Mhm.
I think that's what a thoughtful traveler is that we be blending. We don't do the whole like, oh, oh, oh. We just try and merge into whatever comes up in that experience, like those kids slapping your hands. And I mean, in India, I was on a train and a mother and a daughter, and the mother said, "Oh, my daughter, can she practice her English with you?" And she sat beside me and she practiced. And I happened to be on my own in that carriage. We were all in this tour. We were all spread over the train. And it was great. It was just
Yeah.
great. And yeah,
But you don't have those experiences if you don't open yourself up, and I think,
that's right.
like you said, when we're landing in their country, but
Right.
as Americans, the ugly American is a real
Mm.
thing. We expect, and I'm not saying necessarily myself, but generally speaking, when we go to another country, we expect them to speak English. We expect
Right.
them to adhere to however we want to be treated. And you're
Right.
right, it's not about us. It's not nobody it they're like, "Why are you invading my space and wanting me to, I'm sorry, but this is where I live. So you
Right.
need to adapt to
Exactly.
our country." So
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think we do need
Exactly.
to be a little bit more aware of how we are showing up in other countries.
Mhm.
And, and it's interesting now. I mean, people are very curious about the politics
Uh-huh.
and whether they hate us or feel curious about like, how
Right.
the heck are you surviving over there? Definitely something to
Yeah.
think about.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
loved what you said about people are not um we're so self-conscious and we're thinking about ourselves. No, people are not thinking about us, and I remember very distinctly, I went to a boxing gym because I wanted that experience. I wanted to learn about boxing and working out because I'd heard that it was a really good thing, and the first thing when I walked in, they handed me a jump rope, and I looked at them like, "What do you want me to do with this?" And I'm watching everybody, do the crossovers, and they're like,
Yes.
and they're doing all this stuff, and I'm like, it's been a while since I've used one of these things, and I'm really embarrassed," and they said, "You know what? Nobody's looking at you. They're all just worried about their crossovers and their steps and
That's
their,
right.
all this stuff." And so I took a spot way in the back of the room
Right.
and I
Right.
would do the jump rope and step over it and do the jump rope and step
Mhm. Right.
until I got to the point, months down the road where now I was
Mhm.
doing it. And I was like, oh, okay. But I
Right.
never looked at anybody else. I never pointed at anybody else and go, oh, you look like an idiot doing that. But it's a scary thing to put yourself into that spot because we're just so worried about what we think about ourselves that we
Right.
assume everyone else is thinking the same thing that we're thinking.
Yeah.
No, just us
Yeah.
being paranoid.
It's so, so, so true. So true.
Yeah.
And I think it goes exactly the same way for travel too.
Yeah.
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 And
I love
that's
that.
why I just love this slow, long travel because when you
Ugh.
stay one place for a while and you get to know where you're going to buy your groceries and your little markets and your coffee shop and the neighbors or places and you just do little trips or that, but you end up having this home. That's one thing I love about house sitting. Get your
Yes.
groceries in, you're cooking at home. If you don't like eating out, I mean, I actually love cooking, so I love to eat, cook for myself. But that's also a wonderful way to deal with that whole issue of not eating out if you want to do that. But that is it's just so much more calming on the body. And I just
Uh-huh.
think when we're traveling, the kind of people, women who I work with, often they're going through something,
Mm.
and we just have to be so gentle with ourselves. So we have to create that world. Yeah. If we've decided that we're going to travel, we're going to see the world with new eyes, which is what we want. We've been seeing this old world the way we see it, but we have this feeling that when we move away, I mean, we literally see with new eyes because we've got different views, But of course, we also then
Uh-huh.
see ourselves in a different light too. This stuff takes time. It really, I said that before, I know, but I kind of think of it as a divine incubator of this
I love that. Yeah.
really precious time in our lives because, we may return to some place and then boom, we go back at it and people is, how was your trip? And all this kind of stuff. And then it becomes a
Uh-huh.
really beautiful experience that we get to treasure, right? Um, and that hopefully then whatever shifts have happened while we've been away, while we've done that work, are integrated into the way we live moving forward when we get back, right? This is not what I would call, I'm going on a holiday for 2 weeks to have a break, and then I'm gonna come back and everything's just gonna be exactly the same.
Right.
That's
Because
a
a lot of
whole
times it is. It is because you kinda take your current life with you when you go on a little holiday,
yeah,
because 'cause you're only
yeah,
gone for, like, 2 weeks or whatever, and
I
that's not long and slow. You're usually going with some destination, some activity, something in mind, um, and it doesn't give you that opportunity to fully unwind because I think it takes a couple of weeks to
yeah,
if you're especially if have a family and a corporate job or whatever, it takes you a couple weeks to just let go of w your life, and then if you're just turning around and going back home again, you don't really get a break. Your nervous system
that's
doesn't
right,
get a chance to recharge.
that's right. And I
So
think this is the sort of, one of the big things in travel coaching is it's not you
mhm.
don't start with where you're gonna go, you start with why you're going to go.
Mm, yes.
Really the key part of travel coaching. Because just like therapy, you have an intention, you set an intention, you don't just show up.
Mhm.
You sort of know why you're there. But with travel, we often don't really
Yep.
even think about that, right?
Right, we
And
think about the
we
destination.
yeah, we just think about, "Okay, I think I'll go, like, to Hawaii," or, "I think I'll just go there," because that's the way travel's always been. And
Mhm.
I think that actually there was just a report came out from the Hilton hotels, and they said 2026 is going to be the year of the whycation because they're realizing
Oh.
this is what people need. They need to really tap into what it is they want from their travels because it's just not doing it. This little sort of scratching the surface and then going back to work, right? Um, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, yeah, part 2. Uh, well, it's true because, in the US especially, it's like we get a 2-week vacation. I mean, the Europeans have it right where they take their vacation time very seriously. I have a friend who's
Well, you get
Swedish, and
5
she's
weeks
like
to start.
5 to 6 weeks, and that's I mean, they take their vacation time very seriously because they do it to relax, and their why is to, "Hey, this is our break. This is our holiday." It's literally time to
Mm.
be with our family or to do whatever you know what I mean? So, yes. In here, we're
Right.
like, "Oh, oh, yeah," and most people, like, don't even take a vacation. I'm like, "Are you crazy?"
Yes.
I never
Mm.
had any when I was in corporate America, I never had any vacation days because I would be like, nope, done. I'm taking a vacation day or 2 or 3 or 4, it because it's
Get
like,
it.
"No, I have to get out of here." Um,
Mm.
yes, we could this is such an amazing conversation, I love it, and I love what you're doing, and how can people get in touch with you? How can women that are curious about travel, curious about traveling alone, finding their why to travel, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they could go to my website, which is beckylivingston.com, and there's no E on the Livingston. And there's a lot of information there. There's resources. I've got a vitality questionnaire. I have details of my stamp framework, which is um, these 5 pillars, if you like, of what I believe is the best way to approach this long, slow travel. I've got a chapter of my book, a free chapter of my book there. I've got a beginner's guide to house sitting because I have so many people say to me, "How does house sitting work?" And I thought, "Oh, okay, you know
Yes.
what? I have got to write a little ebook about this." So that's there. So
Yeah,
it's all on my website.
I
I've
love it.
also started a Facebook group. I just started that recently. just to sort of open up the conversation around this exact kind of thing, so that people have a place to share and so on. That's called Vital Travel Journeys for Women, I think. Yeah, I can't remember the exact link. I think I may have sent it to you. I'm not sure. And I'm on Instagram as well.
Perfect. Perfect. I love all of this. And I want to just say to anyone who's listening, if you have been here thinking about, oh my God, I need to start traveling, I want to start getting out of my comfort zone, please reach out to Becky and also share this episode with a friend and get that travel bug. Get it. Get it. Let it get under your skin and enjoy some long, slow travel and get back to yourself. So if this episode has resonated with you, like I said, share it with a friend, reach out to Becky. And Becky, thank you so much. I could talk to you all night. And
Yes, no, I feel the same. Me
probably
too.
will have to have you back on because uh yeah, I want to know more about your adventures and how to travel slow and how to house sit and I just all of that stuff. Of course, I have 2 dogs and a horse that I would have to do some sort of exchange with somebody. Uh,
Yeah. You'd be amazed. Some
the
people love looking after horses. There's definitely, yeah, they're there too. Before we go, I would say, if Rachel were
Yes,
here,
what is one thing that you can leave people with that what's that one first step that they can take or how can
well,
they
I just want to say, if Rachel were here, she would say, because she loved Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, all you have to
ah,
decide is what to do with the time that is
mhm,
given to you. And that was on the program of her celebration of life. It's the tattoo that my daughter has on her shoulder. And I think it says everything. All we have to decide
mm,
is what to do with the time that is given us. And she'd also say, don't wait, because if not now, when?
exactly. We don't know. The time that's been given us, we don't know. We don't know how long that is. And if we don't take advantage of the time that we have, if not, you know, if not when, I mean, if not now, when?
Exactly.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel, for those words. We appreciate
Yes, I know.
you.
Well, I don't know. I'm just putting words in her mouth, but I'm sure that if she were here, that's what she'd want to say to your
I love
listeners.
it. Perfect. I love it. And well, that with that and with that message from Becky and from Rachel, we thank you so much for being here. And like I said, listen to this episode. If you might want to listen to it more than once and then share it with a friend and comment. We appreciate you. Thank you for listening. And we'll be back next week with another episode and another amazing guest on Midlife Strategies for Badass Women.